Hi everyone, Aiden here at etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Flint Hill Goods compact cargo carrier, and we're going to see how it fits on the back of our 2024 Honda CR-V. Now, in general, cargo carriers are a great way to expand the cargo space of your vehicle. If your CR-V doesn't have enough room inside, you can always add to it on the hitch. Or let's say you've got messy stuff that you never want to bring inside the vehicle to begin with. Think like trips to the hardware store, bags of mulch, concrete, things that tend to rip and make a mess. It's a lot easier to keep it out here. And by attaching to the hitch, it's going to be easier to reach and generally give you much better weight capacities than something like a rooftop carrier. Now, with this one being their compact carrier, it's important to mention that if you need more space, you can always go with a larger carrier. Flint Hill Goods makes a number of aluminum carriers that have varying sizes, and you could always go with a bigger steel carrier too, like the etrailer cargo carrier. This one is steel, but due to its small size, the weight is very similar to an aluminum carrier. So I'd say this is a really great option for someone that has infrequent need for a cargo carrier. So you're gonna be taking this in and out of the hitch pretty often and not leaving it there for very long. So you want it to be easy to get from the garage to the hitch. And because it's infrequent use, you're maybe not loading it up with too much stuff. So you don't need a big carrier, just something to get those trips to the hardware store a little bit easier, or maybe go on a family trip. Now, one of the biggest benefits to the compact carrier, besides just the ease of storing it in your garage, is the length that we add to our vehicle. Because from the bumper to the furthest point out on our CR-V, it's less than 24 inches that we're adding. So driving around, pulling into parking spaces, it's going to be a lot easier to move around with. Still keep in mind that there's added length to your vehicle now, but it's much less than any other cargo carrier out there. That does also mean that it's going to sit a lot closer, the closest point being about 4 inches from the bumper. Not something I'd be worried about for vehicle contact, but it's going to make it harder to reach the anti-rattle bolt. And it will also mean that on the edges, we're sitting much closer to our exhaust. So on the edges, I'd keep any heat-sensitive items away from there and just move them towards the middle where the exhaust won't be a factor. Ground clearance at the back end is going to be about 11.5 inches, but that's with the carrier empty. As you start to load this up, it'll get weighed down and start to drop a little bit. It really depends on how much stuff you load up here, because you can have up to 500 pounds in the cargo carrier. I'll say that that has a small caveat though. That's what the carrier can handle, not necessarily your hitch and your CR-V. So be sure to check those capacities like in your owner's manual and on the hitch, and just go by the lowest rated component. And keep in mind that when you're loading this down, that you will get some drop. So that clearance might change a little bit, but with how close it sits to the vehicle, I think you should be okay for the most part. Now, because the carrier is a bit smaller, if you are loading this up with a lot of stuff, you don't have as much surface area to work with, and you're more likely to start stacking things. If you do, just make sure you strap it down properly so it's safe going down the road, but you might start to run into issues with hatch clearance. And I always like to keep your cargo stacked low enough that you can still open your back hatch. And that breakover point today on our CR-V is going to be just a little above 16 inches. Any higher than that, and you're not going to be able to fully open the back and gain access to your cargo inside. But if you're just taking quick trips to the hardware store and bringing things back like that, then probably not a concern for you. I'd still like to keep it under 16 inches because as we start to get higher and higher, then we start blocking things like our backup camera and our license plate. Always check your local laws and regulations, but depending on the state you're in, that might be a real big problem if you do obstruct the license plate. So I always like to err on the side of caution with cargo carriers and just keep your stuff below the plate, keep it visible, and in turn it's going to keep things like your backup camera more visible, making it easier to back out of tight spots. At the bottom, we're fitting with our 2" by 2" receiver tube, and it comes with an anti-rattle bolt that keeps things nice and solid as we're going down the road. Keep in mind that as you load the carrier down, that will also help, but the anti-rattle is a nice thing to see just out of the box. Now, if you're looking for just more space overall or some nicer features like the ability to fold the carrier up when it's not in use, I'd strongly recommend the etrailer cargo carrier. That's going to be a great option if you are taking this, say, on a road trip. You get to your destination, unload all your luggage, and for the rest of the trip, you can just drive around with the carrier folded up. Makes it a little easier to maneuver, plus you get a lot more real estate in that larger carrier. But for a lot of people, if you're just using this every now and again just to carry some extra stuff, or I think more importantly to keep messy stuff from inside the vehicle and just keep it out here where it's easier to clean, then this can certainly get the job done. It's more than capable in terms of construction and weight capacity, and it's going to be able to fit a good amount of stuff in there. Plus, it's just easy to get into the hitch because of the small size and the light weight. But this is just our look at the Flint Hill Goods compact cargo carrier on the back of our 2024 Honda CR-V. Thanks for watching.
Here we are on our test course. As we hit the alternating bumps, you can see what it would be like to hit a pothole on the road. Our solid speed bumps simulate pulling in and out of a driveway or hitting a speed bump in a parking lot. We use the slalom portion of our course to simulate the side-to-side movement, such as turning corners or evasive maneuvers.